Welcome
Okay.
back, everyone.
All right. So we were proceeding with the duel between Morgaine and Valriaut. Just to put a little more tension on Drake for a moment, I'm going to switch over to a little bit of stuff that's happening among the audience. Agorus, you are sitting near your sister, and she leans forward. I'm assuming that you're sort of in the front row, and she's one row back from you, so she's going to lean forward so that she can sort of whisper toward your ear, and she asks if she says, "So, Agorus, have you maneuvered cousin Valrio into this ridiculous situation? Is this something that's a plot on your part?"
I will I'll definitely kind of like shake my head uh a little bit as an answer and just kind of turn just a little bit so I can say something to her. I'll be like, no, this was certainly not my doing. However, it is curious that you decided to come watch. I know you are absent for many of the duels of honor.
Well, I've been off in the Umbra, getting to know my powers, but certainly this is sufficiently amusing. Um, I want to I want to call for a brief dramatic flashback on the part of the GM. So this isn't a flashback for setup purposes or anything, but just kind of a role playing flashback to it's about it's about 10 years ago. Your sister completed the trial, got her powers, and something like a year later, you and she and a delegation are moving through the Umbra. You're going to a minor ceremony at a local in a local world, uh, and you've let her lead because she's new to her power and she enjoys doing this. So she's leading you through a, uh, uh, a, a a city. There's a celebration going on. There are people, there are acrobats and uh, musicians, and sort of this pleasant little city area to be riding through. And she's kind of called forth a world in which everybody loves you, and so people are kind of reaching out to hand you fruits and drinks and things like that. This is kind of how you travel through the Umbra and making it nice and easy and pleasant to travel. And uh, what happens is that somebody trips and stumbles and spills an amphora of wine all over her leg. And before anybody can do anything, she just casually pulls her sword out and kills that person. And she laughs, and another person screams and yells and runs forward and tries to grab the reins of her horse, and she kills that person casually. And then she opens up the next gap between worlds and rides through, and you're in the next world where nobody's dead, and there's a bunch of people who are all friendly and offering you drinks, and it's a continuation of the same celebration in the next world. And she's just kind of laughing casually and wiping the blood off of her weapon.
Interesting.
So that's a little memory that kind of comes to you in this moment. You,
Nice.
you can play out a reaction to that in that flashback if you wanted to, or you can just kind of have been observing and move on.
Um, I think like she rode ahead, or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think the only real reaction would have been Agorus having a very like dour look about this. Obviously, it happened quickly enough that I couldn't prevent it from happening, but it's just a very like the recognition of knowing that she wantonly is going about this way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Definitely like the consideration that power is dangerous. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's not something that should be lightly given. So the orb choice, like probably a contemplative moment. Like why would the orb choose this?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but I guess you've got to trust, and also not trust her.
Sure. I'm going to say that a little while later, she kind of notices that you're not looking happy, and she says, "Oh, come now, Agorus. They're just Umbrians. There's always more of them."
Yeah, I think Agorus would have definitely gosh, I don't even know, like chided her over it. You know what I mean? Like, this is like you can't treat they are not just creatures. These are living persons. Just because they live in a far less stable place does not make them any less than us. And just because there are countless does not mean that it hurts any less when one is taken in such a way.
He gives you a little sound and just kind of rides on forward away from you. And we can end that little dramatic flashback, but I thought that would be kind of helpful for establishing her and your relationship, and how you kind of see her.
Coming back to the present.
And we're back to the present.
Yeah. Having none of this context, I lean over and say, "So you're going to introduce me to your friend?"
Beautiful. And I'll just, without looking at either of them, just kind of like, this is Jilem, my sister.
And she puts out her hand and says, "Delighted." And as we established in the previous game, she one of the effects that occurred when she went through the trial, sometimes people come back physically changed. She has two notably different colored eyes. One is a starkly bright purple, and the other is a green.
Yeah, I kiss the hand and say, "Charmed. Perhaps we can talk more after this is settled." Motioning to the duel.
I think that would be lovely, she says.
I'll kind of just, the slightest bit, give Hrolf a glance. Meet his eyes enough that he knows, but I'm not going to say anything. Yeah.
Okay.
He's in there sitting
and
getting electrocuted.
Uh-huh. And Ananke, you're a couple of people over in the seats, but you kind of notice a little thing happening over there. Okay, so let's pop over to the duel and see how that's going.
Keep me in suspense any longer.
I don't want to be too cruel. So Valriaut, you have used the movement of the flooring to jump to the side and push through Morgaine's, not push through, but get to the side of her shield. You see that it's pointed in a different direction and is not pointed toward you at the moment. What are you going to do with this advantage?
So I'm hoping that I can warp this in such a way I can take the weaving of her shield and I can use it almost as if it's a focusing prism for my own will. I'm going to try and use my warp fate here to maybe give myself a little bit of an advantage as I try and banish her.
Okay. I'm going to say that because you are in a Vergence, and that's a radical thing to do, you are starting at, and because she's dangerous, so that's going to be a starting position of risky, and zero effect.
Zero effect.
You feel like you're going to want that standard effect would get this to work.
Right. Okay.
Limited effect might cause her to flicker in existence. I mean, you've experimented with these things before. Would cause her existence here to flicker, but she would not fully banish.
Right.
So that might give you an advantage if you wanted to use that to get limited effect, but standard effect would get her at least temporarily banished from this location.
Right. So what I'm doing here is I'm trying to warp fate in such a way that I get advantage of her shield to channel through essentially. I'm definitely trying to do to her what I did to that branding signet. Right. I'm trying to hurl her between worlds. So that being my intention, I'm comfortable moving this to desperate and just throwing everything I've got in it for that standard effect.
All right, so you're going to open yourself up completely, no attempt to defend yourself, just standing there and bracing and throwing all of this force in. So that would bring it up to desperate limited.
Yep.
I have an idea for a devil's bargain.
Okay. I like devil's bargains. I don't know if that shows or anything, but what do you got?
So like you gave me the idea with that signet, just like you flung that to a completely random unknown, plane. You were flinging her to a completely random unknown plane, and it might be further than you intend. I guess this is kind of an if you succeed, like it will cause a lot more of a stir if she's not able to immediately return. Everyone's going to blame you for her sudden vanishment and absence and stuff.
That's dirty. I'm gonna have to explain to Mom why
exactly
we can't find Morgaine.
Yeah. She can come back on her own eventually, but like.
Right. So that becomes kind of a conditional.
Yeah.
Devil's bargain. I mean, it's not mentioned in the rule book, but I'd be willing to discuss it. Where a devil's bargain turns out one way if you get a success, and a different way if you get a failure.
So
yes.
If that's the case, if I fail,
does that make sense?
Yeah. If I fail,
I don't see this devil's devil's bargain working if you rolled a 2, right?
Sure. And if I fail here, like, what about I accidentally throw myself through worlds?
Or both
that
of
would
you.
put it really on the edge. So one way or the other, one of you is out of here.
One of us is gone today. Like,
Okay.
Or both of us, where we continue pummeling each other across the multiverse.
Yeah. So the question is, what if it's what if you get a partial success?
Yeah, I think partial is both of you.
Where you just kind of
desynchronize the entire dueling arena.
Where you just blow yourself out of. All right. So I think that is an interesting devil's bargain. So on a full success, then you throw her further than you intend. And into a more dire situation than you intend. So some kind of difficult thing that would be notable as excessive on your part. On a fail, you're going to throw yourself out of this ring. And on a partial, you're going to throw both of you out of this ring.
That's so cool. Okay, give me dice. Anybody got anything they can do to help?
Well, you've got 2 dots in warp. I'm assuming that would be the relevant action roll rating. You have traded this up to risky desperate.
Yeah, desperate standard.
Sorry, not desperate standard.
Ananke's looking at her stuff to see if she's got anything that she can help me out with here.
We could talk about assist if you can come up with a rationalization for that, and you could do that through flashbacks or through something you're doing now to maybe distract her or whatever.
I just really want to throw 4 dice, guys. Is that so much to ask?
I think I'm willing to assist. I'm trying to think how maybe we do kind of another flashback, but maybe it's much further this time, and this is between when you sent the signet back and like you went looking for the signet basically, and you're like, I threw it somewhere, I don't know where. Hrolf, can you help me figure out how to do this again so I can figure out where it went? And you practice banishing me somewhere.
Okay. Yeah, this is the training montage that we're flashing back. Okay, stand still. I'm going to try something a little different this time.
Yep.
So you've been planning the idea that the way to win a duel in this place is to get her gone and to set it up so that means she can't answer and therefore she forfeits the duel. This has been your plan for decades now. You've been working with Hrolf on making that work and practicing how to make that work. Maybe even the two of you, went to a Vergence to practice doing that in more difficult circumstances after you got good at doing it out in the Umbra.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that. That entire like montage scene that's going on right now really gives me a lot of joy.
Yeah. Oh, come on, you can get me out of here. Do it.
Yeah,
Waste me, bro. He's gonna take. Yeah.
Not far enough.
Yeah. You sent me like 6 inches into the past. What did you do? Okay. So an assist from Hrolf. I'll push myself. Are we looking at? We're looking at desperate standards.
So that's 2 extra dice that will exhaust you. You'll run out of stress. You got nothing else to give.
Yeah. Okay, being dead tired at the end of this.
Okay.
Even if we go spiral through the multiverse, I'll just start running.
All right. So that's 4 dice.
Let's see that sweet crit, guys.
Oh boy.
And a partial.
It was the most dramatic result, so.
So, boom. And, Valriaut, you don't, you feel yourself, oh no. And you and Morgaine, we can kind of focus in on a special effect in which you're sort of pushed into a different level of reality, and you see yourself blowing yourself away from her, and she's kind of tumbling away from you, and you're tumbling away from her, and away. I'm also going to say that in the process, she was striking at you, and there's going to be level 2 harm in the form of a concussion blast of her storm power at you. So you're going to end with this sort of covered in one giant bruise. And that's helping blow you away from her.
Is this the way it was supposed to go?
And so let's go back to the chamber. So there was some kind of weird flash and sort of twisting of reality. Anybody with the blood could sort of feel a twist in how things exist. And the 2 of them went whoosh, and they are no longer there.
Yeah, I immediately turned to Hrolf, and I'm just like, did we discuss what happens when neither respond?
I don't think we did.
No, the seconds have to fight it out.
Wait.
And you hear your sister go, ooh, clever.
I have a loophole idea. Can we? What are what are they called? The stones.
Oh,
The
transfer
transfer
stone.
Transfer stones. You can communicate through transfer stones. So can I have attuned to transfer stone, or Agorus to have done so, to Valriaut, so he can still respond?
Oh.
Yeah, I'm going to say that
That would make more sense for me to have it, obviously, because
it's going to take you it's going to require a roll for you to establish a connection within the time frame of the marshal calling for a response and no response given.
Okay.
So you see the marshal walking out onto the floor, and he calls. He's just doing his standard thing. He is unflappable. He is calling and saying,
he's okay with this.
Is there a response? Boom. Is there a response? Boom. And Agorus, you know that the third one is forfeiture. If there is no response by either, you'd have to look at the rules of these duels. But you're not sure how that's going to be, but you think, but you know that the third strike is the end of the duel if someone cannot respond.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Right.
I think that plan's totally cool. I definitely will stride out past the barrier if that is the case, and I'm not exactly sure. Attuning these stones or like trying to get that connection so that I can.
So that would have been done already.
Right, the
In that you
connection
would
is
have.
established, but like pulling him forward enough to do like the visual, because you mentioned you can have like
Yeah,
different levels of
sure. So what that
connection
would
or
mean
whatever.
here is that you would, you've already attuned the stone to him.
Mhm.
You have the stone in front of you. You are staring into it. You are using the power to connect to wherever he is.
Mhm.
He can then open up his mind to that. Presumably, he's not going to resist this. You could essentially use that connection as it opens to reach your hand out. He could take your hand physically, and you could pull him through to your location, assuming you're able
Um,
to establish that connection quickly enough.
right. And so I assume it's warp. That's what I would be trying to do.
That would probably be the usual thing. Again, you could talk about other things that you're trying to do, but that would be the first ability that I can think of, which you have 0 dice in.
Heck yeah.
I
Yep.
have 3, and I think
So the
my
question is,
yeah,
can you, as Morgaine's second,
right. I don't
do something to pump, in a way that's visual, assist her opponent in
right,
winning the
and
duel?
I don't think I can, but I can maybe subtly just give an assist to Agorus, like to
How would you
help
be
his own.
doing that? You standing next to him and putting a hand on his shoulder and trying to boost his signal or something?
Or use my reach to
Okay, that's
like
true. You can do that at a distance
yeah,
without it being nearly so noticeable.
right.
All right. It
Um,
will be a little bit noticeable that you are using the power of the maelstrom, so people will
Mm,
see that. Valriaut has a special ability that lets him use his powers without people noticing, but you do not.
I think it's reasonable that because I mean
yeah,
he has the reach, right?
yeah,
It's like you're sensing for your mother,
right.
right?
Exactly. That's what I would say.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's not at all unreasonable. Just people will notice that happened.
Right.
Yeah, that's cool. I think so. I think Agorus
So
would
I'm fine
walk
with that
out,
being an assist.
and I'm just gonna push myself
Yeah.
unless you have a devil's bargain. But um,
Hmm.
I think this is difficult for me in general, so pushing makes the most sense, anyways.
Yeah.
But I understand that this will like clench it.
All right.
I don't know if this was Valriaut's plan, but I'll walk out there, and I think I kind of have to like remove my mask to like unobtrusify this like connection I'm trying to draw.
Okay.
And I think more than I don't want to go for like pulling Valriaut back as much as like just having an image of Valriaut
Mm-hmm.
presented, because I kind of am okay with leaving him where he goes. So,
Okay.
I earned this.
And
but that would be so pushing. I will get 1 die, and assist from Jacob would be 1, so I'd be on 2 dice.
uh, yes, and so that means that there's no devil's bargain available because you're pushing,
Yes.
right?
Um,
So
mechanical
that's 2 dice.
mechanical question for the bonds. Does the assist have to be related to the bond in some way, or
No.
okay? Then I'm going to use that. So I do have a bond with Agorus.
Yeah, so you can use that without spending stress.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so let's establish this roll. So I'm going to say that it is standard effect in that you will open, if you succeed, you will open up a connection to Valriaut. The risk for a complication, I'm going to say, under the circumstances, I'm going to say it's risky.
Okay.
Right?
So go for 2 dice.
Yes.
I know all the bad rolls out of the way. So
And a partial. So you do succeed in opening up a connection to Valriaut. Valriaut, do you want to make a suggestion about where you might have been banished to?
I guess I can't say the elemental plane of greased up pigs, but but I think it's much
or even
like
just the location you open your eyes and what do you see?
I think what I see is the caverns of Agorus. If instead of a bright shining orb and like hung in the sky, hung on the roof of the cavern, instead there's just an orb of kind of this crystalline black shadowy miasma, and there's no trace of civilization. Like civilization never just took root here.
So you're in a weird reflection of the caverns.
I'm through the looking glass here. I'm looking around this cavern and I'm like, oh, I am very far from home.
Right.
But then my transfer stone starts to vibrate, and then it's okay.
Well, it's not. You feel so. It's not your transfer stone. It's that he's using a transfer stone to make a connection to you. So you feel a connection opening up.
My brain starts vibrating.
Right. I'm going to say that the consequence, since you rolled a partial, is that you can feel the stone because making connections within a Vergence using these stones is more difficult and uses up a lot of their power. I'm going to say that you can feel a crack forming in that stone.
I'm okay with that. I'm a prince. I've got stones everywhere, right? That's just one stone.
Well, they are kind of rare and difficult. They're not a dime a dozen.
Joke.
To me, it is very.
I just want to make sure that you understand stakes.
No, yeah, it's not like I'm gonna just pull out a dozen more, but yeah, no, I get it. Like for Agorus or Agorus, I would be able to get more eventually. Mm-hmm. Like it's not.
It's not the end of the world. No.
Yeah.
But again, this one is attuned to me, so it is very special.
And it's only a little crack. It's fine.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll step forward. The staff has struck twice by the marshal.
Mm-hmm. So we're seeing this happen kind of in slow motion.
Yeah, I'll kind of like pull back my mask, and you can see like I'm sweating from this very trivial use of warp. As I kind of, in a commanding tone, am just like, hold for a moment, and like a weird shimmer kind of appears in the air between us. Mm-hmm. And I think we probably don't see this very scary, ominous miasma crystal over there, but the laid on his ass Valriaut is present in a cavernous location.
Yeah, so you could see sort of an image. You can actually see a little bit of what's in his environment as well. So kind of in front of you, there's a shimmering vision of what you're looking through to see him.
And I repeat the phrase the marshal says, is there a response?
Is there a response? And so you say, is there a response? And are you trying? So you've opened up kind of a psychic connection to Valriaut. Are you trying to pull him through?
No, I don't want to pull him through. I just want this image. I'm trying to make a projection of him so that he can respond.
Yeah, I think when I feel that I have like an open channel, I think from as you said, on the flat of my back, Valriaut Sammartine of the House of Matinee is ready for the next tussle. If she wants another go, you tell her where I am.
All right. So I'm going to say that's going to require one more roll. That you're going to use that Valriaut can use his warp ability to expand upon that connection and reach his voice out so that it is easily heard to the marshal and to the audience.
Now I am completely out of stress and
right. That doesn't mean you can't make a roll.
Okay.
Right. So that will be at. So you are actually. Let me look up what that does because I don't remember it off the top of my head. 1 second, please.
I love edge cases.
Does it subtract from your
dice pool? Is an automatic -1 die.
Okay, that makes sense. is there a devil's bargain here?
Yeah, I think that there has to be a devil's bargain here, one way or the other, right? Do you have one to propose, or should I think of something weird? Or anybody else can?
I can think of a bad one. It's the only thing I can think
Yeah,
of.
this cavern is somehow much more dangerous than I want it to be, especially with no stress and level 2 harm.
Right.
The one I was thinking of is that someone else has done the exact same thing for Morgaine.
Right, Sealam's like walking forward.
Yeah.
It's
Like,
not
sends Agorus
over.
pretty far.
Whose side are you on?
So that would be an interesting devil's bargain. That would mean that the duel would continue. Valriaut does not have to accept
probably not
devil's bargain, or you could propose a different one.
I was thinking more along the lines of the distance between Morgaine and Valriaut wasn't as far as he might have expected. Like maybe she's trying to get back to the caverns of Agorus, and she steps into the area that he's in. It might not be enough because like my connection's with Valriaut for her to call out and still be in the duel, but she's still in the duel
right
like
there
physically.
That would be an interesting. I would be fine with that as a devil's bargain.
Okay, I'm willing to let Morgaine step in here just as the connection closes if this works, but I think that I'm gonna put myself in some hot water here.
Okay. Interesting.
Okay, 2 dice. Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
Oof.
And a 6. All right, so your voice, you get a full success. Your voice, no additional consequences. Your voice is clearly understood. And the marshal hears you, declare your presence. And the staff does not go down for a third time. And then he says, "Is there a reply? Is there a reply?" And Valriaut, you turn and you see Morgaine.
I want to close the connection, please.
Yeah. Can we feel like, is there a connection on that? Like, do I get this sense of dread as like he very quickly tries to like close this thing?
You can essentially, you have a psychic connection to him right now. You could step through to him.
Sounds difficult. I'll try.
Okay. All right. That's not incredibly difficult given that you have a full connection open right now. I'm going to say that it's, so I could see that being a warp roll. I could see that even being a traverse roll. Let me see what either of those would make sense.
Oh, it's fine. That's not my forte. None of that.
None of this.
I'll push myself.
I can give you an assist.
Okay. All right. So that gives you one extra die. Valriaut can't really help you because he doesn't have any stress to work with.
I have a free assist due to my bond. We are so close after all.
Oh, yeah. You could give it. Yes, so you can definitely do that.
Useful. So assist, I'll push.
Okay. So that's 2 dice, right?
And I think I'll go, I'll go through on this sense of dread.
Okay.
Do we need to discuss risks involved? Risk standard?
Let's say that is, I'm going to say that's risky. Standard. Okay. If you succeed, you'll get through. And you roll a 6, so no consequences. You reach out, you sort of, you sort of feel that dread. You say, pull me through. You reach out, Valriaut, you just kind of, you're very weak, but you get your hand up, you make physical contact with him, and you pull him through to the other side of that connection. The connection is now broken because now you're both in the same spot, right? So pulling through ends the transfer stone connection, and you see what Valriaut had described, and you see Morgaine standing there, looking at you and saying, "This is not over," and you feel her starting to pull her power together again.
I think at this point, I'll have made my way over to Hrolf, and I'll be like, should we bring them back?
The third, reply, no reply has struck, right?
That has struck, yes.
Yeah, okay.
So as he stepped through, boom, there has been no reply. So you, on your side, you hear the marshal proclaim, there has been a reply from Valriaut. There has been no reply from Morgaine.
That's a win.
And he says that word, right? The the hold or whatever it was supposed to be, like stop hitting each other.
Yeah.
We don't hear it though.
Right.
Yeah, you don't hear anything. So he's declaring this duel over, with Morgaine having forfeited.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I guess I replied to Ananke. Probably should, at least to make sure that they're safe.
What do you think of? Let's do maybe a group action warp here to open up another connection and pull them back through.
If that's how it works. But
I did vaguely discuss this. I don't know how important this is to the rest of you. But the whole alliance thing, I kind of was mentioning that it, on the RP side, is not necessarily a declared alliance. It's not like we walked in here and said, hey, we're all working together. We're going to steal a dragon. We're going to do these things. They're shady. So I don't know if flagging all of us as being distinctly together is the best.
That's fair.
That can be a thing.
So,
but
Agorus and Valriaut are clearly in some kind of connection, but you're cousins, so it makes sense. And you were acting
second,
for him.
Of course.
You were his second, so that makes perfect sense. Nobody's going to question that. The other two of you taking a really big interest in fixing this.
Here's my thought here for Hrolf. You could call your mom back.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
But it has to be accepted.
Right. I replied to Ananke, yes, we should get my mother back.
All right. You could flash back to having attuned to Morgaine.
I think that
you have a stone.
Right. I think that would make sense as something a second would do, especially with this type of challenge.
Yeah, I wouldn't. That's not going to cost any stress for that under the circumstances. It's not super complicated.
Yeah. So I'll open a connection to Morgaine then.
Okay. Because you are in a Vergence, that's going to be a probably warp unless you want to try something else. But you're good at that.
Yeah, I'm good at that.
And I'm going to say, under the circumstances, that's controlled.
So why don't I do that? And maybe I ask Ananke for a hand as well, just to make sure that this goes through.
Yeah, I can either throw you an assist, or if there's something that could be done as a group action, if we're both working on the same thing, then that either way.
Either way, I mean, you can, in the fiction, you could put your hand on his shoulder and just kind of push with him.
All right, you got
as long as you're willing to have other people notice that the two of you are doing something like that together.
Yeah, I mean, we came in together.
Yeah.
We're friends.
But you do notice that Agorus' sister, Jelinum, she kind of laughed amusedly when everybody disappeared and all this played out. But you do notice that she's noticing the two of you. She seems quite aware.
Sure.
All right. So you're just doing that as a simple assist?
I think so.
Okay, so that's an extra die.
Okay. 4.
And a partial. Fairly controlled. So you do open up a connection to Morgaine. You feel so there's a psychic connection that starts. And I'm going to say that the controlled consequence is that she doesn't. She is essentially telling you to leave her alone,
Kind of what I expected.
which you could then work on. So she's basically not accepting the call. You can push into it if you wish.
Yeah.
So you have a light psychic connection to her right now.
I might try to like command her and tell her like
Okay.
though it might be more like persuade, but say like return before people think you're um not returning, and uh I think the Agorusi, what is the
Agorian.
Agorian?
Agorian.
The Agorians are uh um getting anxious.
So you're trying to command her to
Yeah,
come with you?
I'm trying to play on her sense of duty,
Okay.
which
Uh,
is probably not the most
yep.
successful with her.
All right. I'm going to say that that command you can try, but that's a risky thing
Sure, I'm fine with that.
given who Morgaine is.
Right, yep. So a risky standard. I think I'm just gonna go for a straight roll.
Okay.
Nope.
And a failure. Okay. So what you get back from her is just sort of a flat wall, and I'm busy.
I announced
A
to the
wall of
room
wind.
she's busy. And then I put the transit stone away.
Now you still do have that didn't cancel that light psychic connection.
Sure.
The consequence was in the form of you're just not persuading her. You still have that light connection to her. Let's go back to the three of you in this mirror world of Agorus. It's a big empty cavern. Nobody lives there. There are big, like lots of spiky rocks to climb over, and a big dark mirror image of the orb up in the sky that is you see is flashing, and it's a dark orb that has a sort of it's sort of a dark gray with one big deep black spot in it.
Well, that's good. That's not the eye of doom.
No, not at all. And Morgaine strides up to you and grabs you by the throat. That is a consequence that you do not currently have the ability to resist. Although Agorus is there, you could take action or you could protect.
So my initial thought is, obviously Valriaut's on the ground. I would have interposed myself upon arriving.
Okay.
If that changes the fiction, or if you want me to just rule it as protect, however that works.
So, yeah, you can protect, which means that you're physically interposing yourself between you and her. She's quite rageful, so she might take action against you.
That's okay.
Okay. All right. So, do you want to make so you're taking a so all right. So she's gonna try to throw you out of the way.
So basically, there's like a strike happening right now, and I'm the one taking it, not him.
You're taking that. Okay. So she turns that from a grab by the neck to a throw to the ground. So she is attempting to. She's gonna basically throw you over her hip. You could and put you on your back on the ground unless you want to resist.
Yeah, I'm going to attempt to resist.
Okay.
Prowess, I assume.
So, yep. So I think that's prowess. Yeah.
And might my weapon master ability to get +1 die resisting consequences before I can react from powerful opponents be in play?
That's kind of a yeah. I'll give that to you. That's not quite what that ability is intended for, but I'm going to call it close enough.
Okay. I'm gonna be as bad as Valriaut in 2 seconds.
You never know. No, you're all
There we go.
six. No stress. So the exact opposite of Valriaut. So she goes, you step in front of her. She goes to do essentially a jujitsu move to just kind of push you as she steps behind your hip to throw you on the ground. You impudent cur, and you sidestep so that she does not have leverage on you, and you're simply standing in front of her.
Sure. I'm gonna lay my hand just on the hilt of my sword, not threatening to draw it immediately, but signaling that I would be willing to. And I'm going to try to inform her just that the duel is done. Like, the duel has ended. The fight is over.
Okay.
I'd like to use command.
Okay, so you're trying to command her to stand down. I think that's a very reasonable use of command. I'm going to say, however, that because she's angry, that's risky.
Sure.
And you could push if you wanted, or...
do we have a devil's bargain? Because I'm actually kind of interested.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Do you have one in mind, or are you just asking about one?
Yeah, I was asking. I didn't know if you had anything more planned about this
Right.
Black Sun we've looked at.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm going to say that either way, there will be a spike of black energy that comes out of that sort of dark spot on the mirror orb that comes down and strikes right nearby and knocks everybody off their feet.
Okay. I definitely like that.
So that would be so that will cause level 1 harm to you. It will knock Morgaine down and cause her some harm. Valriaut's already on the ground, so it's not going to directly affect him. It would knock him down, but he's not already down.
Okay, excellent. So that is 2 command plus 1, 3 on that?
3, yes. And a 6. Okay, so you say this. There's a sudden black lightning that comes out of this dark spot on the mirror orb, strikes all around you. The two of you are thrown backwards. It's sort of happening around Valriaut, but it's not directly affecting you since you're on the ground. It's affecting things that are higher up. The two of you are thrown backward onto the ground. That's going to be level 1 harm of you just kind of strike your shoulder, so injured shoulder, let's say. She's down, and because it was a successful roll, we'll say that she is going to take this as a sign that it is not time to go after Valriaut right now.
Certainly. And this, it's just energy kind of dispersing, right? There's nothing else like lingering or appearing near us.
No, no creatures appear or anything like that. No.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll hurriedly get myself up, offer Morgaine a hand to get her up off the ground.
She doesn't take your hand. She gets up all by herself. You see that she's a bit bruised by it, just like you are.
That's fine.
Since she's not wearing armor, but she's not going to take your hand. And she says, very well, Your Highness. This can wait until later. Let's get out of this place.
I would take a hand.
I nod in agreement and carry Valriaut. I don't know, pick him up at least.
I just moved
You're exhausted. That means you can take limited actions, especially since you're out of stress and also injured. But you can walk slowly.
Sure, it's probably like the shoulder thing.
A hand from Agorus probably would not go amiss. How are you trying to get out of here?
I just look at him. You're the wanderer.
Well, I
Morgaine steps ahead of you, says, "Fine," and you can see her walking along, and she starts to open up a gap between universes.
Oh, that's good. I like that. Thank you.
And she leaves it open long, and she steps through, but leaves it open long enough for the two of you if you're reasonably quick.
Yeah, I'll pull through.
Okay. You're now in a different cavern that does not appear to have this giant orb in it. You've kind of stepped around so that you're not seeing the orb. And she just leads you through a series of shifts through different caverns. After a couple of shifts, you see what looks like a town in the cavern, and then another shift, and it feels like you're back in Agorus, down a little ways away from where you were before, so you would have to travel to get to back to the palace.
Sure.
Okay. All right. So at this point, and Morgaine's going to just stomp off. She's not going to talk to you. She's not going to have anything to do with you. She's just off. At this point, we could, the evening is winding down in terms of the ball. So we could step ahead to the next day. You could take a rest action, which means that you would all recover your stress, which at the very least Valriaut would probably appreciate. You would reset abilities, including your assist, your free assist, if you want to do that. So that would mean that you just finish up with the ball, you head back to your apartment, and it's the equivalent of 3 o'clock in the morning, and you just pass out for some number of hours.
Sounds good.
Okay.
And I don't want to say that you're in hot water now, Hrolf, but I feel like it might have been a better thing to never have had that connection, because it's questionable it wasn't opened the first time.
Yeah. We'll see. Sorry, I'm being attacked.
Well, you take your chances. So you can uncheck all of your stress. You can uncheck your assist boxes. I don't think any single-use power abilities got used, so I think that's it. And we're skipping ahead to the next evening, if that's what you'd like to do. It is, however, 8:30, so that's our next break.
Do we want to hold off on the break until the internet disconnection?
The internet.
Oh, right. Yeah, we were going to do that. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's keep playing until the two of you, Drake and Navi, freeze frame for us. And we'll see how that goes. So good point. I had forgotten about that.
I would think that rest, Ananke would have tried to put a salve on that all over bruise.
Right. Yeah. So yes, you can resist that. So that's right. You can make a resist roll, and you can do that before you reset and take that that rest action. So it almost doesn't matter how you roll, because you're going the way things will work out. You'll be tired, but then you'll be able to sleep. So that means you'll resist that, presumably level 2 harm. That'll drop that down to so that'll erase that. You'll still have 2 level 1 harm on your character sheet, Valriaut.
Those don't go away after a rest action.
Normally, if this we're sort of in this game, normally a rest action should take a couple of days. So I'm doing an abbreviated rest action that recovers stress but does not give you a chance to eliminate all harm. After a couple of nights of this, I think it'll be reasonable to just declare that done. So you're looking just really bruised and battered, which I think is pretty reasonable under the circumstances. You have that new scar on your neck.
I won. That was great.
Which is actually kind of a cool scar when you think about it. But you're able to move. You're able to take action. You'll just have 2 level 1 harm boxes full.
nobody gets out alive. Nobody
Yeah,
goes avoiding the warranty a little bit, you know.
yeah. So not too bad under the circumstances, right?
Thank you.
And a few people who bet on you made a lot of money because the odds were against you. So the next night, the second night, is the most formal evening of the ball. It is the night of the royal procession. It is normal for people to wear their most formal clothing, and you could have multiple outfits and be wearing a different outfit tonight that's more elaborate, more formal, more everything, however you want to decide that looks, if you want to do that, but that would be considered an appropriate move on your part. Assuming you don't want to do anything else, the next evening you go back, you ride the steam train back up to the palace, back to the same station on the balcony, and there are this evening everybody's showing up early, so you had to wait to get a train car, even if you came early. When you get there, there's a big, people are mulling around, and the Minister of Protocol is calling people forth and is setting up a procession line that goes out from one of the side ballrooms and actually into some secondary rooms behind it that have been opened up for this purpose. Let's see, Agorus, you're going to be up in front along with your sister. Valriaut, you will be a little bit behind, but you are an Agorian noble, so you belong here. You will be near your brother and your mother, who will be having a little chat with you about what happened last night and why you made the choices that you did.
I assure you that I did everything well in hand. Everything was fine. This was very well thought out.
Let's see, Hrolf, you are a little further back with foreign nobility, but because you're connected to the Storm Knights, you are a little bit ahead of Ananke. Ananke, you see your mother. Your mother is named Noctan, and she is not from the Serpent. Your parents are not married. They never were. She is a herald. The heralds are sort of an order of that serve as diplomats, ambassadors, information brokers, connections among all the different parts of the Vergences and the major anchors that connect to them. They do a lot of travel. They do a lot of diplomatic stuff. That's kind of their role in this universe. And your mother is a woman who is equally tall. You kind of got your height from both your mother and your father. She has very, very long dark hair in a long braid behind her. She has a set of robes that mark her as a herald, and she has an amulet on her chest marking her as a high-ranking herald, which means that she is not too far in the line from you. You see various nobles kind of bickering about where they belong, even though the Minister of Protocol and assistants spent much of the previous night trying to avoid any kind of arguments and resolving any arguments about who goes where in the order of precedence. But there are still some arguments about who belongs next to who, and why do I have to stand next to this piece of garbage, and that sort of thing. So there's a little bit of that kind of stuff going on. This goes on for about an hour to just get everybody lined up. Agorus, you see your mother make her appearance. She is Queen Inhedron of Agorus. She is the longest standing monarch of the rulers of the different Vergences. I believe this is her 138th year in rule of Agorus, so she is an institution. She greets you and your sister and other relatives. She is resplendent. This year, she managed to, her and her people managed to keep what her outfit would look like secret, even though there were many attempts to find that out in advance, sort of like, what the new iPhone is going to look like this year. And she shows up as an ermine in resplendent gown. She has she is at the head of the procession. Ahead of her is a contingent of the Red Guard, the Royal Guard. There are musicians ahead of her, and there are several musicians and people laying flowers and the like. So this is a big fancy thing. One thing that seems notable to you is that in her procession up ahead of, she has selected, there are several beasts who are on chains being held by attendants. There is a purple three-headed lion-like creature. There's a sort of prismatic, semi-transparent bird. And there is a small-ish dragon. After that hour or so, people are chatting in line, and then the procession goes forward. There are people calling out the name and title of each noble as they enter the hall. Your place would be to go with the Queen's procession up to, she has a sort of a raised platform with seating and tables. She's heading up there. That's where that's her kind of home base for this evening, with all of her attendants, including the animals that she has from the menagerie, some musicians, and other people head into the hall. If anybody wants to do anything during this, you're welcome to do that. Otherwise, you're just going to process. But Ananke, as you enter the hall, you see your dragon over by the Queen. She's not in the menagerie. She's over by the Queen. Or, I'm sorry, he's over by the Queen. And you hear in your head a voice that says, "Hello."
I assume I'm safe to answer with them in my own head, right? So,
As far as you know.
Be familiar. So, at risk of feeling like I've gone crazy, I'm going to talk to the thing inside my head.
Okay. The thing inside your head says, "You're from the serpent, aren't you?"
Am I getting the impression that this is the dragon or a person? Because that would affect how I respond, I think.
Sure. You look around and you see the dragon making eye contact with you.
Oh, okay. In which case, she'll be agreeable. Like, I am. How did you end up in there?
Here, well, I was traveling and I had a bit of an accident, and I woke up and these people were capturing me, and I couldn't speak to them, and I ended up in this zoo, I think, or something.
That's unfortunate. How do you feel about us getting you out of there?
I would love to get out of here. What is your name?
Ananke.
I am Kith Black Rain.
Kith Black Rain?
Kith Black Rain. So Kith, Kith. Can we leave now?
Not without a great deal of fuss. We're going to have to find a way to get you out of that cage discreetly.
That would be nice. I mean, they haven't treated me badly, but they think I'm just some little animal or something.
Yes, they collect your kind.
Yes. there are some other, dragons who are different from my kind of dragon, and those are animals. So I suppose they confuse me with them, but I don't belong with them. I belong home.
No, I agree. We're going to do our best to get you out of there. You're not able to communicate with anyone else?
No, there are only. I can't communicate like this, even with most people from the Serpent. But there are a few. I think it's an inherited thing.
That makes sense. I think that at that point, Ananke is just gonna side eye her mother. Her mother's not from the Serpent, so she's she's kind of a paranoid thing. Like, is she noticing me doing something strange? And then she'll kind of go back to trying to look busy while talking to this dragon.
Okay. I'm going to say that your mother is chatting with a couple of other diplomat type people and doesn't seem to have noticed you. You were chatting with her earlier, but now she's chatting with some other folks.
Yeah, as long as she can be discreet, she's going to try and continue the conversation.
I'm going to say that's not going to be a whole lot of trouble for you unless there's something really stressful going on.
Awesome.
So that's not a roll or anything.
Do you know where they're keeping you tonight after the ball?
I think so usually they keep me in the big zoo, but a week ago or so, they took me to this smaller set of cages. I think that's in this palace place.
Does that sound like the menagerie? The menagerie is the bigger one, right? Would be the zoo, right?
Well, you can, to your understanding, there is a very large zoo in the city, and the menagerie, essentially the queen and the royals can kind of pick and choose who they want to have on exhibit within the menagerie from the zoo. The menagerie is sort of an extension of the zoo that exists in the palace.
Okay, that makes sense. So then I would continue to suspect that he'll be in the menagerie once he's off of display, right?
You would imagine so. That would be the closest place to keep an animal.
Yeah, no, I think that mostly she'll just try to assure him that, she won't leave him to this particular strange fate. But at the moment, we have to.
Not like that. They haven't been mean to me, but.
But you are not a pet.
I don't belong here. It's been very strange, and they won't let me leave. And I couldn't explain to them that I don't belong here.
Actually, I'm kind of curious. I would probably have asked Agorus, how would they feel if they knew they had a more intelligent type of dragon in their collection accidentally?
So is this are you going over to find Agorus? Or is this a flashback?
I think this would have been a flashback trying to feel out, because otherwise, why not just explain the situation, right? So.
Yeah, I think it's pretty reasonable to say that they would prize more intelligent creatures. Because I know that the Agorians travel and collect other creatures, and some of them take like personal collections that at times are intelligent. It's usually probably not under duress. They probably wouldn't like force. But they also might be suspicious or leery of a person from the Serpent coming to speak of a dragon needing liberation. Like, especially when we can't communicate with it, it's like, you're just lying to us because you want our sweet dragons.
Yeah. You also remember that your father had reached out to you to ask you to not make sure that this was not something that could be directly connected to the government of the Serpent.
Right. I was just for my personal trying to wrap my head around, would they actually keep something like that intentionally as a pet, because that's at least to her mind pretty low.
Mm-hmm.
It's
So certainly one strategy you could follow would be to try to convince people that this dragon doesn't belong in this menagerie. So that would be a strategy you could follow.
And I think we'll stick with the original plan, which is to try and get there when get to him when he's not in the middle of a procession with eyes everywhere.
Mm-hmm. So let's say the procession finishes, so everybody's kind of been announced. Whatever your official title was, or titles, especially in the case of Agorus, have been announced to the awaiting throngs. And let's say that there is a first dance beginning.
It might be the moment, by the way.
Queen, that her Majesty will be dancing with her current consort. Those of you who want to partake, you could certainly find a dance partner. If you would prefer not to, you could stand around the sides. But this is one that's going to involve shifting height of the floor, so it's going to be kind of acrobatic.
Let's make the decision when we come back. Because it looks like
Okay.
they're disconnected. Yep.
Yeah, it looks like they've
So we'll be
faded out on
back
us.
5 or so minutes, depending on how long it takes. Oh,
Yeah,
there
yeah.
they go. All
We
right.
just lost them.
See
Yeah.
everyone's in.